Welcome back on this beautiful Thursday morning. Yes, it is your Feel Good Breakfast Show, and we are delving out the motivation as if it's Monday. Because listen to this, the Two Oceans Marathon is more than just a race, okay? It is a journey of endurance, of purpose, and of course, of heart. And this year, 32 runners are hitting the road for a cause that's truly special. Running under the banner of hashtag Sweat4Sam, they're raising funds for Footprints for Sam, a charity founded by Melissa and Fred Platt, in memory of their beloved son. Now, every step they take honors Sam's legacy, supporting children with life-limiting illnesses and also bringing hope to families across South Africa. And today we dive into this incredible initiative and the powerful impact it's making. So please, can we give them a feel-good welcome? It's Melissa and Fred Platt. Yes, I was getting goosebumps just reading that, because the incredible work that you are doing in honor of your son is so wonderful and definitely worthy of singing from the rooftops. I mean, already taking on a marathon is a tough thing, but now you're doing it with meaning. So tell me more about that.
Gosh, where to start? Do you want to start?
Well, yeah, I think right at the beginning, you know, our son Sam was born, and the Two Oceans has always been part of it. So even before he was born, we were down in Cape Town, in fact, for our last holiday before Sam was born. And Melissa ended up in hospital in Cape Town.
And Fred said to me, do you remember? He said, I'm sure it's just that spaghetti bolognese you ate. And I was feeling terrible, and I said, I think it's more serious than that. Yeah.
And then, so I went and ran, and Melissa. So Sam kind of has always been part of the Two Oceans. And then obviously, since Sam has passed away, it became part of the purpose. In fact, while Sam was in hospital, the one thing that I could do as his dad, because it's quite difficult, you know, as a dad, you're powerless. And yeah, so the one thing I could do was run and raise money.
Of course. And that was more than anybody could ask for. Nobody wants to be put in that situation, and the most you could do was that, and that's the best you could do at the end of the day. So thank you for honoring him in that way, and also honoring yourself. I think that was such a beautiful choice to have made. Can we get into talking, Melissa, maybe a little bit more about the impact it's not only had on the two of you, but also on the families and children that also may be going through similar experiences?
Absolutely. So Fred always says his plumbing went wrong after Sam died, and we talk together, but the tears are always there, so don't worry about us.
No, please, I'm with you on that. I was like, oh, give me a tissue.
So Footprints for Sam, as Fred said, Sam was born, he was very prim. That holiday, it was 2015, and everything just went very wrong, and it was my first pregnancy. But as a mom, you know, and that is part of Sam's legacy, is how do we give parents a voice? How do we make sure that as a parent, if you know that something's wrong with your child, if you know something's wrong with your pregnancy, that your voice is heard, that you are seen and listened to, because that's so powerful, especially when it comes to saving your child's life when they are so preemie. Sam, we didn't know if he would make it through the night. He did. He was a warrior. He was a fighter. For 13 and a half months, we were in one hospital. We moved him to Cape Town, so here we are again. And it was almost like that was the full circle. But very sadly, he died at 15 and a half months. And no parent should ever have to go through that. So that's what Footprints for Sam is about, is how do we come alongside parents so that they have the support that we felt we didn't have. And even though we had a private, privileged journey, there was just so much that went horribly, horribly wrong. And we looked at all of those elements of care and thought, how do we fill that? And Footprints for Sam has 6 key initiatives. And all of the runners, it's actually 65 to date.
Oh, my goodness.
So we've doubled. And I know a few have fallen out with injuries and COVID and all sorts of terrible things, but we're going to have 65 runners at least on the road in Footprints for Sam colours.
Oh, I love that.
Breath is life. Because Sam couldn't breathe. He was on a ventilator all of his life, on and off, intubated, then with a trachea. And our programs, we have a transport program, which takes children from the townships to the hospital. Red Cross Children's Hospital, Tygerberg, Grooteskier, and clinics, and Pete's Pal, which is another palliative organisation we work with. And these children are children that otherwise weren't making their appointments because parents couldn't afford transport.
Right.
And that was inspired because when we were at Red Cross Children's Hospital, children were alone. And we just felt children shouldn't be alone, especially not dying alone or sick alone. So that's the transport initiative. We've transported over 13,500 passengers to date. And that's very limited per vehicle. They're not crammed in. It's not a taxi. Then we have buckets of food, buckets of love, buckets of toiletries, because children need food. They need to be able to thrive. And often children were going home with nothing. Then we have a Wi-Fi program because you need to communicate when you're in hospital.
Connected.
And that was when Fred and I were touring Red Cross when Sam was still alive, and this little boy was saying, Sister Jane, I need data. And we're like, why do you need data? And his parents had passed away. His only living relative, and his gran had just died, was his uncle, And he couldn't communicate with him unless he had data. He was in the Eastern Cape. So that was the Wi-Fi program. Then we have a support program, support for parents, and very importantly, the health professionals themselves. Because their emotional well-being is so key. That bedside manner you hear about, we need to make sure it's there. And they need to be well and whole and not so broken-hearted to be able to do
It's that conversation. Where does the therapist go when they need help? Where do the healthcare workers go? Can I just say you guys are doing such a fantastic job.
Thank you.
I mean, to have taken something, a tragedy, and turned it into service for others is so beautiful. And that's exactly why I started with goosebumps. The tears are going to come. I know Graham's probably feeling emotional in the kitchen as well. It is just such beautiful work that you are doing. And all the best for the marathon. My goodness, you're also taking on another thing that I know is definitely going to be a success, all things considered. So we really appreciate that. And all those details, Expresso fam, will be on our social media to go ahead and support. It is, of course, Footprints for Sam. And yes, we are taking that step in the right and good direction.